Next on Worcester News tonight, a Sturbridge man is caught voting in 2 different towns in multiple elections. Why the system didn't catch him sooner. Plus, a fire and police department taking concerns about their inadequate facilities to the residents in their town. Good evening and thank you for being here. I'm Brittany Schaefer. A cooler system moved into our region Tuesday, but the warm-up is expected to start tomorrow. By the end of the week, we could be seeing temperatures in the 60s. For more, let's send it over to meteorologist Tim Kelly for a first look at our forecast.
Pretty day today, pretty chilly too. It's going to be cold again tonight. Storm just missed us to the south. Other systems in the west tending to weaken and mostly lift into Canada. And when storms lift into Canada to our north, we usually warm up. Another cold night though outside tonight with a clear sky. Moon does not come up until late at night. Here's the wake up forecast. Temperatures are falling through the 30s into the 20s. A few spots, especially if you're in a hollow and there's still some snow on the ground, could be around 15 degrees. In the city, I think we're going to be 21, 22, 23. So the temperature's running pretty cold at the bus stop in the morning. But once again, sunshine, not too much wind. We are going to be warmer here in Worcester County than along the coast with an onshore breeze. We should get to 45, a lot of spots. Hilltops a little cooler. Colder at the beaches, though, with full sunshine tomorrow. Light wind. Then the wind picks up from the south. It's breezy on Thursday, pushes the temperatures into the 50s, and we may touch 60 by the weekend, although clouds and a shower or two in the mix. We'll have the 10-day forecast in a few minutes.
A Sturbridge man allegedly voted in 2 different central Massachusetts towns in multiple elections. In 2014 and 2016, Jay Patel voted in both Shrewsbury and Sturbridge. The Shrewsbury town clerk says he tricked the database. Our Chandler Walsh joins us live now from Shrewsbury with the latest. Chandler?
Brittany, the discovery began last year. Patel pulled nomination papers for the Board of Selectmen in Sturbridge, and when the town clerk took a look at his voting records, they saw something interesting. Public voting records show a local businessman voted twice in multiple elections. Shrewsbury Town Clerk Sandra Wright says Jay Patel voted in both her town and in Sturbridge for elections in 2014 and 2016, including the presidential election.
On a voter registration, it has to be exact for it to show up as a duplicate. The exact first name, exact last name. Mr. Patel was registered in Shrewsbury as J.S. Patel, and in Sturbridge, he was registered as Jayesh Kumar.
Wright says the state database will reject a voter registering a second time, but because 2 different names were used, the system didn't catch it. Worcester's Assistant City Clerk Nico Vangeli says municipalities rely on the state-based system, and there are safeguards in place to prevent voter fraud.
When you're completing voter registration, anything that's in the fields of that actual registration card is inputted in that statewide system. And if the computer picks up the record in some other city or town, it brings it and carries over that voter history as well as voter activity.
Vangeli says the clerk's office updates voter lists weekly with death records. They also complete an annual census. When it comes time for elections, he says it's important to make sure lists are correct.
A lot of folks wait until election day to kind of inquire about their voter records, and some of them, do find that they're registered in previous cities or towns, but now they currently live in the city of Worcester. So I encourage all residents to check their voter status.
In Shrewsbury, Wright says registration mistakes can happen, but she's never seen something like this.
I think he knew exactly what he's doing. If it was a one-time thing that happened, but he's a businessman, he's not that old, and he did it 4 times.
Wright says a letter was sent to the Attorney General's office days ago to determine if Patel will face any voter fraud charges. We've reached out to Patel but have not yet heard back. Live in Shrewsbury, Chandler Walsh, Worcester News Tonight.
The Worcester Regional Chamber of Commerce is calling out National Grid, saying the utility company is hurting the momentum downtown. In a letter to the state's Department of Public Utilities, the Chamber's Director of Government Affairs and Public Policy says National Grid isn't keeping up with the city's Main Street reconstruction project. The project requires 14 electrical vault upgrades, and to date none have been completed. In a statement, National Grid says, "We are committed to continuing to meet regularly in order to listen and respond to customers and communities while meeting the guidelines set forth within our current regulatory framework." Public safety leaders in Charlton are raising an alarm about the condition of their buildings. From water leaks to not having enough space, the fire and police departments say they need upgrades. Our Roslyn Flaherty joins us now with more on the effort to take the issue to the town's voters. Roslyn?
Brittany, the departments want to build a public safety complex to have both in one place. They say it's difficult to do their job now with what they have.
We've actually had to carve out of the foam insulation just to make sure that the truck will fit in the building.
Charlton Fire Chief Edward Knopf shows us just one of the many issues his department is facing. They have 3 separate buildings because their headquarters isn't big enough for some of their trucks. So in some cases, firefighters have to run across the street or drive to get their equipment.
Extremely challenging. Where we are right now, we have our heavy rescue truck, which is stationed up at the other station. So if we get a big motor vehicle wreck on the Mass Pike or on Route 20, we have to send somebody up to go get that piece of apparatus.
The police department is experiencing building issues too.
There's water leaking in this cell right here, so that cell's going to be shut down because we're not going to be able to utilize it.
Sergeant Keith Cloutier says their building, built in 1991, didn't take into consideration the new technology. He says if the phone is ringing, dispatchers have just seconds to use the bathroom because it's across the station. Another problem is the space, especially in the lobby where child exchanges happen and sex offenders register.
We don't have any meeting rooms off of that to be able to, say, separate people. So the child that's waiting to exchange with the parent is sitting next to the person that's coming in to register as a sex offender because we actually don't have a place to put them.
There is an effort to build a new public safety complex which could look like this. Both fire and police say it will make their job easier. The committee working on the project doesn't have a cost yet, but will present the design at a town meeting in May. And it will be up to the town to decide if they want to fund it.
We're bursting at the seams here. We've got trucks that we don't have to special order anymore. That would be a cost savings to the town.
In the amount of cost that it would take to upgrade the police station to bring it to a modern standard, it made sense to instead look at a public safety complex, building it all as one.
The proposed site is right next to the police station. Again, they will present the final design in May. Roslyn Flaherty, Worcester News Tonight.
The Mueller investigation was once seen as a possible reason to impeach President Donald Trump, but a political science professor says it could now be a powerful tool for his re-election campaign. Special counsel Robert Mueller's report did not find evidence President Trump or his campaign conspired with Russia during the 2016 election. The president is celebrating a victory, and Democrats want Mueller's full report to be released by April 2nd. Daniel Klingard is a political science professor at the College of the Holy Cross. He says if Trump wins re-election, this moment will have been his turning point.
It's a huge victory for him. It's not only a victory because he's off the hook, it's a victory because he then has a card to play. It might have the effect of not neutering, but really dampening a lot of those complaints that Democrats have about corruption, about scandal. Trump can say, oh, you have this other scandal, well, this is just like the Mueller thing that turned out to be nothing. Everything, my whole life has been investigated and they came up with nothing. That's going to be a powerful response.
And Klingard says the next few days should be interesting with more hearings and a possible full release of Mueller's report. Temperatures are warming in the first full week of spring, but the thaw also means ticks are starting to look for a blood meal in humans, but also pets. According to the Centers for Disease Control, this year is expected to be one of the worst on record for ticks. The Cummings School of Veterinary Medicine in Grafton says they are already receiving calls for ticks found on dogs. Dr. Michael Stone says they see pets coming in with Lyme disease every day during the spring, and in some cases, it can be fatal.
Lyme disease in most forms is very treatable and not a big deal. In humans, it's a really big problem. For dogs, much less so, and it doesn't cause a problem for cats. 999 out of 1,000 will be very treatable, but 1 out of 1,000 does get a very severe form. Every dog owner should have their dog on tick prevention that lives in this area. We have ticks, they're everywhere, they're very small, can't be seen. So you might think, well, if I ever see one, I'll pick it off. The problem is they're so microscopic, they're underneath the fur, you really won't see them.
Stone says his preferred tick prevention for dogs is the pill or collar. And when the weather warms up, it also means allergy season. And in Worcester this week, the pollen forecast is expected to be high. When the weather is dry and windy, pollen and other allergens are distributed into the air. UMass Memorial Medical Center Dr. Brian McGuirk says allergies can happen year-round, but are typically at their worst during the spring. He says the best way to avoid symptoms is to try to stay away from the triggers or to take medicine.
You can use some over-the-counter stuff, or you can talk to your physician about different options. You do want to be careful of taking medicines that might make you drowsy, especially for going to work. People can complain of similar symptoms to common colds, but often they complain of watery, itchy eyes, kind of runny nose, and a lot of stuff they're complaining about is kind of clear, runny nose, rather than having a color or distinguishing.
McGuirk says for people who know they have allergies, they can take preventative daily medicine.